So now what you say will go out into the live streams. And look, speaking of cuties, look who's on the screen, y'all. Hi, baby. Hi.
You're muted, Kristen, if he's talking.
If you're talking, we can't hear you.
Oh, he's not saying anything. Look at the zombie.
Oh.
Is he sick?
Third day. So fun.
At least he's not in pre-K yet, because we have 5 days off in a row now.
You can see
So
the on it. He's not well, poor guy. Oh.
All right, y'all. I'm gonna get us going. We're missing a few people, but we'll invite them in when they come. I can share the agenda on the screen. Our first. Oh, yeah.
April 30th.
Here's the last months, and those should be, that's tonight's.
Okay. That's
Want to see last month's?
because you're gonna ask.
I am, but I can come back to it if we need a few minutes. Wait, but.
Boring. That's a fun age though, isn't it? Then they know everything, right?
Fun. This week is hard. I don't know why I we're hitting.
Resistance? What is it?
Oh, crying.
I'll ask our to approve last month's meeting notes, or what, we can give that a moment if last month's printed notes are here, anyone would like to review it. And why don't we go to the first item, the administrative matters, and that is sort of an assumption, we're checking in on the summer schedule for the Fall Kingston. So in years past, we've not met in July and August. We've been doing a lot of restructuring conversations the last few months. We weren't sure if we were going to need to meet those months. How do people feel? Should we meet in July and August or not? I think Katrina, we've been feeling strongly that we would prefer us to not meet.
I know to take the 2 months. Just scheduling and summers, and it feels like when we're not all here, we're not as productive. It's kind of like, oh, there's only 3 of us. If there's more people here, we can make a decision. So it's just thinking ahead that people have vacations and things coming up.
And I'll add in the resolution, for example, the commission only has to meet every other month. So we have the ability to not meet for months. Yeah. Any other thoughts about meeting or not meeting?
I mean, I think it would be productive to meet. But I would come by myself.
And maybe I'll even offer, like, if we go talk about some restructuring tonight and we say, like, maybe in July, I might invite whoever is interested to meet with me at our usual time to talk about communications, for example. So it won't be a typical commission meeting, you know, maybe a little bit by theme. And that way we can still move some work along. And if Anthony wants to meet with me and support me on that, that would be great.
If I happen to be in town, I would come to that meeting. So yeah, that's
Cool.
another hat in the ring for that idea.
Great, yeah, I could
Sounds like a
definitely,
nice compromise.
use help on comms, and I think when we talk about restructure tonight, we might identify another bucket. Great. All right, so it sort of feels like we may officially cancel the meetings for July and August, which means I'll take them off of the city calendar. I can't take them off of our calendars, or actually on our Outlook calendar, I probably will just change the information and say that it'll be like a theme. So that way, still on your calendar if you want to come. But I'll take it off of the city's calendar, so it won't be an official commission meeting. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are good with that. Yes, all right, cool. Thank you, everybody. Okay,
I move to approve the minutes.
you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All right, any extensions? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And I think I saw verbal confirmation from everybody, so the motion passes. Thank you, everyone. Might have been our fastest meeting to water. All right, that brings me to letters of support. So we sort of identified recently that we already have a process for letters of support. It is usually, just briefly, the process is that if one of us gets approached asking the Kingston to supply a letter of support, it comes to Katrina and I, and if we both, like the chair and the coordinator, if we both agree that it is something that the wall is generally in favor of, then we write a letter of support and the chair signs it. But then we identified that you all sometimes don't know about that. So there's a missing gap there. So we decided to add that to the agenda. What I've got on here is actually 2 potential letters of support. So we have not signed these yet. So the first bullet point, we heard from the grants department. I can open up that email if you have deeper questions about it. The grants department reached out asking Live Well Kingston to write a letter of support regarding a water quality grant. And there is a planning project for Kingston Point Beach that is climate adaptive, which where they're going to tier the beach. So as the water levels rise, there's still a beach.
Oh, nice.
So it's a letter of support for that.
Interesting. Because it's not a very big beach.
Right. I can't talk into more details of it. I believe it's on EngageKingston.com. Julie Nobles, the project manager. I've seen some drawings. It's a cool idea where I think the idea is that as the water goes up, you lose some beach.
Yeah.
And then eventually you might lose some of the parking lot. And maybe that.
I can see that, yeah.
And I'm assuming it's different phases, but I think this project might be like setting up the foundation for those phases.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The parking lot next to the baseball field is already underwater.
Right. And that's already,
That project was a start.
that's already starting.
But even just, I feel like it's gotten worse. in the last
Oh, yeah.
2 years.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
that's,
think so too.
But yeah, but now it's like completely.
No one parks, yeah.
and we just to be clear, so that's officially already been planned. And they're letting that parking lot, part of the parking lot, go rewild it. And they're like this year, the next couple of months, are gonna construct a new smaller parking lot where it doesn't flood. And that's why the parking lot across the street, sort of by the soccer field, is closed to accommodate the less is being lost by the waters that's flooding it.
Is the existing part of the parking lot that's useful going to remain parking?
Yes.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah, because I think especially because it serves the dog park,
Yeah.
the
golf
BMX, the disc golf, and Rotary.
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions about those 2 draft letters? Otherwise, I'll draft it up and send it to Katrina Light to sign.
That sounds good.
Cool. All right, so Snap Ed is a little bit more complicated and a little bit more, I don't know what the right word is, a bigger deal. So we've heard that in the proposed federal budget that there are deep cuts to SNAP, and it completely eliminates SNAP Ed. And there's a woman in Cornell Extension who is our SNAP Ed educator for the area, and she sent out an email to multiple groups, sort of as an advocacy alert. And I can try to speak more about that if you have questions about it, or if, Kristen came on screen. Kristen, do you want to jump in, or do you want to explain a little bit more about that? I bet you have thoughts.
Yeah, I have thoughts on a lot of things. I'm gonna make this quick because my son's yelling at me. So the Farm Bill, it was up in 2023, and there was never. So the Farm Bill is done every 5 years. It obviously didn't get done in 2023. There's a current proposal. So there's a current iteration that's out right now that's in the House committee that has, I think it was 300. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to get the numbers for SNAP. I saw it in there. It eliminates SNAP Ed. So I'll get back to that one. SNAP Ed has been funded by the Farm Bill. It is 1% of the overall budget. And so we actually have SNAP Ed educators in our area, Mary Bremer, and we have a whole Hudson Valley SNAP Ed group. So there's some information from them that they sent out to Eat Well, and they sent, yes, I understand you don't want this banana. They sent out to Eat Well and Healthy Ulster Council about what that means. So really right now, they're just trying to educate on the impacts of SNAP Ed and what it does for our community. Full transparency, I feel like we should share. SNAP Ed is one of the funding sources for the Creating Healthy Schools and Communities grant. So it's about 35% of the CHISC budget. comes from SNAP-Ed through the state of New York Department of Health. And so that's out right now. So there's some information to review on what it means to eliminate SNAP-Ed completely. And then there are some other cuts that are being proposed right now. Hunger Solutions New York is a really great resource for that. The bill is $300 billion in cuts to SNAP-Ed, or to SNAP in general. So 300 billion. That's what's going on, going around right now, along with cuts that are proposed to Medicaid and a couple of other different food access, food support programs. So Hunger Solutions New York, that's the SNAP information out there. And then SNAP-Ed Hudson Valley, through our partners at CCE, are sharing information about the elimination of SNAP-Ed from the budget.
And in case it's not clear, SNAP-Ed is the educational component of SNAP. So SNAP is the food emergency resource, and the education is the part. So they do nutritional education, lots of other questions about that, and then I can talk about actions that I suggest to you all. Any questions sort of about SNAP?
I read that letter and it seemed like something that we should just definitely go ahead and support.
Right. So the ways that we can support first one is a personal ask, and that is if you would like to advocate, you can call your personal representatives. I'll say not on work time with my own personal opinion, email and phone. I called Schumer and Congressman Ryan this morning actually and left the messages. So so easy, just call the number, say your name and address. Feel free to do that. I did it this morning. I got a gold star. And then the second bullet point is if your organization has a positive story, partnership highlight, or testimonial about working with SNAP-Ed, please consider sharing it with your representative. So that might be something that maybe Kristen and I can write up, and if Lidwell would like to, maybe Lidwell could sign on to it and share it with our representatives. Again, Kristen and I can't lobby. We can't say vote for a specific voting thing, but we can educate. So we can create that probably as a form of education, and then you all would somewhere between lobby and not. It probably makes it is lobby if you're asking them to not to vote a certain way for bill. So we can't.
And the whole city's not, or just
So I remember watching one of the Eat Well presentations that she did. I think it was on accessing like food is medicine or something like that. But like I could definitely like watch that again, write something, and then have the commission sign it. You know, nobody pays me over $5,000 or whatever it is.
Did you just offer to make something?
Yeah, I can
Alright.
definitely
Take you up
do
on that.
that. And also,
So just to clarify, the food is medicine presentation, I think, was generally around the Medicaid 1115 waiver. And so what we've learned is that that waiver has already been approved for New York State. And so in any sort of Medicaid cuts and conversations, it is not included states that already have approved waivers. There's a little bit of, there are some SNAP-Ed programs when it comes to food as medicine. But just to, I think if you're going to go back and watch the presentation, a little bit more of it is around the 11, actually, I mean, one of the presentations is all about the 1115 waiver. And the second one, I think really touches on that. And that is not SNAP or SNAP-Ed necessarily.
it might not have been the one that I'm thinking of. I just know that there was something that, you know, that it was useful to have the SNAP educator present whichever it was. It might not have been that one. I know it was one of them. It was food related.
Cool.
Okay, yeah, I can go back and take a look maybe and try to guide if there's one that was specifically a little bit more, would have examples for SNAP-Ed or SNAP.
Great.
That makes sense, right?
Yeah,
You understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. So Anthony, if you want to help us draft something, Kristen and I can also pull some research together or help draft it. So that sounds like a great step forward.
Also, like the watershed one, like I have those templates and can just put the live well purpose in that if that's something that you don't want to do.
For the water quality?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I have a folder of all of our letters of support that we've done over the years. I don't know if I have a water quality one. So yeah, if you have a water quality support, please send it to me. That'd be great.
There's the Resilient Watersheds grant, is that the one that we're,
I don't know.
is
Like-
that, but
If you have that easily, why don't you send it to me and I'll review it and see if it helps. Sometimes I can even, it's very similar, often our little language is like, we work on social determinants of health. So sometimes it's a little bit boilerplate. So great. So that's the action number 2. The action number 3 was like social media sharing. So I'm gonna say again, I think that's a little bit more a personal ask if you guys all would like to share that. I think I forwarded this email to you all. Please feel free to pass it on. It's pretty devastating. The cuts to SNAP and SNAP, so it feels.
Is there, just out of curiosity, does anyone know about, is there a state, I mean, other than advocating for these cuts to not happen in the federal budget, is there any state analogous vehicle that could reduce the impact of the cuts? Like, what are there any state-based alternatives? Or
Kristen, do you know?
For SNAP or for SNAP-Ed?
Because CNAP is federal too, right?
well, I guess for both, like, is there any state financing that could be reallocated, or is that a discussion at all in state, I don't know, budget discussions?
The short answer is no. The states, so what they are doing right now, one of the proposals is to transition a lot of the cost of SNAP to the states. So not only the cost of SNAP in terms of the benefits that are given to people, but also the administrative cost of SNAP. So I think it's hi. I think it's like 25% of the administrative cost they want to transition onto the states. And then it's a different percentage per state. And I can share with folks if they're interested. It's from FRAC, the Food Research Action Center. It has some really good breakdowns on what, because it's like complicated, the language that they're changing and how it's transitioning cost to states. The short answer though, is that there is not enough money at the state to make up the difference. It just will not happen. So benefits will be cut, and also cuts will be made to other state programs as states are trying to prioritize where their spending goes. So there's just not, but I'll maybe for the notes, just for people's like information, I can try to find quickly the FRAC information. They have it both nationally, and I think they've broken it down by states as well.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at it now.
Isn't there a similar proposal with school meals in the Department of Ed?
So for school meals, I haven't heard the latest updates for a while. They were trying to change the rules for CEP. CEP is Community Eligibility Provision, and that is saying that if a certain percentage of students in a school district qualify for free or reduced meals, then the entire school district qualified for free and reduced meals. And so they would get the full reimbursement from the USDA. And so right now that percentage is at 25% of a school district qualifies for it. In the past, like couple of months, I don't remember the movement on this recently. It was up to, they were going to change it to 60% of the schools. Just for reference, KCSD is at about 50% qualifying for free or reduced meals. A complicating factor to this is that free or reduced meals right now, the way that parents can understand and schools can understand is oftentimes through qualifications for other benefits. And so one of those is SNAP. And if the eligibility changes for SNAP, that would create some additional administrative steps and might lose some people in the gaps on identifying who qualifies for free and reduced meals to meet this level of CEP. New York State did pass universal school meals in its most recent state budget. So they've made that commitment. In New York State, what that looks like if CEP changes, we don't quite know. But that is just kind of the field at the moment on where things are.
So, yeah. So it feels like we're all amenable to us drafting up maybe some stories to share about SNAP Ed, and then since time might be a little short, I'm hoping that I might be able to email it to you all. Maybe we'll do a vote approval on it, and then maybe the chair can send it. We may also want to consider sending it as an advisory to the mayor and the common council. I think that we can create some of that and same content and just say, we really want you to be aware of what's happening. I urge you guys to do that, not my decision, of course, it's commissions. I think, not even though they are not decision makers in this, if they don't know, they should know, I think.
And they might be able to.
Yeah, I think we've all said we want to be more so to see a little bit of space.
And this feels like exactly our role.
Totally. Great.
You know, there's a change happening. It may affect Kingston directly. You should know about it now and you should start to prepare for when we have it.
Agree.
Any questions about designs?
You, no question.
Okay, Kristen.
Hi, I just wanted to if you're thinking about this kind of work, I think because the commission meets, monthly, just to share a bit of a timeline. So the SNAP-Ed team shared with me, if we're talking about SNAP-Eds, we're looking at the Farm Bill that it's in the House right now, will likely move to the Senate by the end of May or in June, and by end of summer will be voted on by the Senate. So as we're looking at this, because the commission only meets monthly, sometimes there's a little bit of like a quicker timeline in terms of the ask, in terms of like advocacy and gathering stories and so forth. I know like the letter that came out from Hunger Solutions New York, they had set a deadline for Tuesday. So they've already drafted up the letter. There's like a letter to Pat Ryan with different organizations and groups it's already being sent. So just kind of share like that context if that's of interest. I think, it's going to be moving quickly through these different bodies, and then it changes kind of who you'll be sharing stories or information with.
Cool. Yeah, I think we'll share it via email and try to move this along.
Yeah.
Quickly. All right, okay, and share.
Can I ask one just a question? I know we talked about letters of support last time. Does everyone feel good about kind of what we have done in the past? Like we can share what letters we have signed, just so we're all in the know. If there's a letter school or city parks, I signed on to, it was a grant application to make sure Block Park, Loring Park, and the third one, I don't remember this one. The third park kind of had basic equipment, things like that is kind of what happens more quickly. But then I think we committed to sending out an email when they come up, just so we're all know.
Oh, was that before the last time we met?
That was before the lesson.
Okay.
So we didn't do it because that was like 2 months ago. I think that's what we shared, and then it was like, okay, we're moving forward. We're going to always share out.
Oh, what you said is different than what I thought.
Oh, tell me.
I wasn't going to share out an email. I was just going to report on it at the end on the meeting notes. We could do that.
Whatever is the preference.
You used to like ask for like an email sort of consensus before. Did that work too slowly, or am I misremembering which way I used to do?
I don't know that we've done that too many times for a little while. There is that. Sometimes it actually is more admin than you think. It's like you send up an
No, I
email,
believe it.
people don't reply at all, you just sort of collect it all.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a process to that. So I don't recommend voting unless you all feel strongly. You can always do that. What if I say we've received a letter of support? Here's what it's about as an FYI. And then if someone feels strongly about it, let me know, and then we could call for a vote.
I think that my preference would be to like see the letters, like, they can go through, but like to like know what was signed on, like having that letter, so like read the back. Like, I think if it was just reporting out, I might not like absorb it the same way if I had the letter to review to see exactly what the project is that we're saying that we support.
Okay.
I think I would find that helpful.
And do you want that during the process that we're about to sign it? Or do you want it on the agenda the following month, like this has been assigned?
I mean, there's never been a time where people like asked me about it, but I think like as a commissioner, we should kind of like know what we're saying that we support as a commission, like as in real time is like feasible.
Right.
So about like an administrative burden on,
I think we could send it out when we sign it, and then we can also recap at the meeting.
Yeah.
Maybe send things with the expectation that it would get unanimous support and nobody
Yeah.
has a strong dissent, then,
So you're not looking at
so
the-
Right.
I'd put a limit on it, I'd say by, give it a 24-hour window. And also say, when you reply just to you, so that everybody, and then you're not sitting there trying to figure out who's, you can just get it to you, their reply.
And just to let her know, like dissent, like not like for or against, but like if you're like opposed for some reason.
Or there's a typo. I mean, if somebody says, we don't need to have, yeah. So I'd give it a
And when
lot.
everybody sends it to me, it's always an ask too. It's
Yeah.
like, do you want?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
To be clear, in my mind right now, I'm not gonna email it to you as a vote.
Right.
Nettie, I have tried, always, there's always something that doesn't follow the rules, so follow the directions that I ask. Humanity, it really, it's not personal. So, we're going to get a letter, so for example, if we're going to get these requests for letters of support, I'm gonna, usually I dropped it up, send it to Katrina to review, Katrina agrees to sign it, I'm going to email it to you all. And say Katrina's going to need to, has signed this, and then I'll wait 24 hours to then send it in.
You're not gonna offer an opportunity to say anything like,
That's the 24 hours.
so
And I'll say in the email,
24
please let me know
hours.
in the edits,
Within 24 hours. Okay,
or if
that's,
you feel strongly not to send it, I'm not gonna say, please vote and
okay,
reply
I
all.
totally get
That's the
it.
end,
That's
that's
fine.
fine. That
And do you guys sign it after the 24 hours since if there is edits?
Right, I'll send it after the 24 hours, exactly.
Well, I won't sign it before.
Oh, okay, so we'll just send the draft.
Just because if there's an edit, I don't want to
Yeah.
sign it.
I mean, I may suggest not like opening it up to edits. It's like, what, I don't anticipate having any feedback about the letter. It's like whether, I just want to like know what I'm supporting. And like in the outside chance I don't support it first. Right.
I understand that.
Okay, so I think I have it down. Let's test it out. We've got these two letters of support. We'll test it out. We'll see how it goes. And then give me feedback. You're like, no, actually, we really do want, move forward.
Yeah, and then at the meeting, if someone missed all the emails, then they're still in the know.
Yeah, they'll still be on.
And then we talked about at one point having like a shared drive that they could live into. Maybe something,
I mean, we have a shared drive.
Yeah. but we just didn't put the letters in there yet.
Right, because usually I do it on I do it on my hard drive, which is actually the city shared drive, and it's just not on Google. So,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, I think I got all that. That I'm sort of moving us along a little bit. Sorry to feel a little rushed. There's a lot going on. So, no new business. We're picking up our strategic reflection conversation. Last month, we presented a potential new structure, and I wanted to bring that up again, clarify it, hopefully. I've created a graphic that might help explain it. And then I personally have a few open questions that I sort of would like to discuss with you all. And then I'm hoping, if we're ready for it, to take a vote if we want to move forward. So this next section of our agenda, the goal for me is if we decide if we want, we're at a place to make a decision about it or not. And then my next step would be to take some questions to the focus teams. So let me back up and remind you of what the restructuring proposal is. And that is that right now, for Live Kingston, there aren't assigned chairs. So community members can apply and be voted onto this commission, and they don't represent a health institution. They aren't necessarily involved with the focus team. We're wonderful. We're really lucky that we have the folks that we do have, because you are mostly engaged in different ways, which is wonderful. But right now, that's not in our bylaws, for example. So the new structure would be that each chair would have a specific function. So each focus team would have a chair that would report in both directions. It doesn't have to be the chair of the focus team. It could be a liaison. We can work some of those details out. And then in addition to focus team chairs, might be specific needs chairs like communications, public engagement, development and fundraising, and assessment.
Quick question. So would each commissioner be a chair?
Yes.
Okay, so each commissioner would have a specific function, whether it's on one of the teams or another area that we're identifying.
And I thought we'd have a different name too. Point, we just came up with chairs.
Yes.
Got it.
But this is all sort of a proposal and open to feedback and conversation.
Yeah, I love that.
So, I took Kyle's thing and then made it more complicated. So here's one way here's sort of how my brain is thinking about it right now. So right now we have, I think it's 11 seats. So I think it's the same amount. And the idea is that there would be someone here who is connecting and regularly going to Eat Well and would be at Eat Well and hear what their works they're going on, come to this meeting, maybe report on it, or ask this commission for support for Eat Well. And then the other way, if this commission says, we're going to restructure, they would bring that information back to Eat Well and present about it in Eat Well. So they would be the main person of contact. And that's sort of true for the other focus teams. I've got Heal Well grayed out because it's dormant right now. So still a topic of conversation with whether or not we have Heal Well. And then we haven't talked about these yet. These is sort of what I quickly wrote down as what I thought the other chairs' little bit of roles would be. So I sort of envisioned that the chair of Live Well could speak for Live Well, so they could present to the Common Council, they could sign letters, they can be that figurehead if we need them. They don't now, they could lead the meeting. That's written in our like resolution and bylaws, but I've taken on that responsibility, but a future chair might want to do that. I also see sort of the next couple of chairs as the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, as folks that are going to do some of that strategic thinking, probably help advise me, the coordinator, or a different liaison. So they are sort of the folks that are looking at all of the work and helping us envision the direction of our conversations, helping us think through how all of these pieces work together. I was also envisioning that the chair might be the person that welcomes new people in.
Recruitment too,
But recruitment, welcoming, that's sort of what I was thinking. So if someone expressed interest or applied, they might reach out to that person and say, hey, can we get a cup of coffee? And I'd love to tell you about it.
we talked about like a welcome packet too. That's pretty nice.
Yeah. And that to me is a little bit of that, like the face of the commission also. If someone had time, I'm putting things out here as like would be nice if had happened. Like if they wanted to go to a chamber mixer, they could represent the book and stuff. I've seen that for other chairs. Emily Hauser, I believe, does that for one of the climate smarts. She goes to other commissions and talks about the commission she's the chair of. Vice chair, I see as a backup to all of the chairs. So if the chair got sick, all those things that the vice chair might be able to fill in those roles, similar strategic work. And then I put special projects because there's always thoughts or things we have, like if we were like, oh, we really want to think about tobacco, maybe the vice chair would say, whoa, let me spend a couple of hours researching what other organizations are doing that work. So they might be sort of a special needs kind of person. Again, this is all just like I'm dreaming right now. Secretary, I think just taking notes at the meeting is a good ask. So I think if someone wants to take notes, they don't have to do a whole lot more, frankly. But then they, of course, Kyle's very helpful, and I can definitely see that role as still doing some strategic reflection. Assessment, that's a little bit of what Anita actually did last month, and I think is a key part that we've been missing, which is someone who maybe keeps reminding us of the assessment that we've talked about, and also probably coordinates with me to say, I've always dreamt of having a dashboard on our website of like, here are the impacts we're making. You know, X new programs have started, 3 new policies have been created, and they might help kind of with me give feedback on what data that should be, or might help track it, or I sort of see this as data and assessment kind of focus for someone. Engagement to me, that is communications, engagement planning. I think you sort of get the idea of that one. Development. So to me, that is right now the Department of Health and Wellness basically does all the grant management for our Novo grant, but it would be great if I had someone to send that draft application to review.
But then they could also think about, is there other ways to develop Live Kingston financially and sort of structurally? So, and let me say for all of the chairs, but specifically the sort of not focus team chairs, they probably, I'm not assuming that any of them take on all of that work themselves. Almost all of them, I think, are either drafting something with staff or are creating something and bringing it to the commission for review and asking for help. But it's almost sort of like, those are the people that are making sure we don't forget about assessment. But they can ask for help, they get help from me, but it's sort of like that's their focus.
Yeah, maybe another thing is like point person.
Yes, I like point person for sure. Yes,
So, yeah, all these roles are really collaborative.
totally clear. And just because one person's in one role doesn't mean you don't also talk about communications or about, strategic work. It's just that that's sort of, yeah, they're the point person for it. So I think what's different about this is that all of the chairs to the left represent other groups, and all of the chairs to the right are sort of right now individual people. That could change if more people in the community or other folks wanted to make a development committee. That could still happen. It doesn't have to just be one person, but the chair, the person who represents the development, they would join this meeting to report on that work that happens. Okay.
And one of the things we were trying to solve for was both the communication with all of the groups and the workload of the health and wellness department. So that's kind of how we came up with this like division. And yeah, and again, I think it's not a huge lift for each. You can kind of choose a role that feels in your wheelhouse. And I don't think we're asking for like hours and hours, but it's just something that you kind of have a focus. And instead of having Kristen and Emily present, some of us present at meetings too, of being like, hey, maybe November meeting is the 5 folks on the left present about more in-depth presentation about what's happening with the working groups. That helps kind of.
More questions about that before then I have like things that might confuse us again. So first let me make sure that the folks understand sort of what we're proposing and how it's different than what currently. Questions about that?
Well, I guess one question is, so in this new world, would you as the chair, like actually set up the agenda for these meetings and facilitate the conversation?
I mean, right now, Emily and I meet every month and go over the agenda. Personally, I'm happy not leading the meetings. I think that because it's so brain for work, it makes sense. But like, I feel like this year we have done a really good job of just connecting and bouncing ideas off each other, like moving things along. So I think it would be choice of the chair and how they want to do their swings are. Like, I don't love public speaking, so like strategic thinking. So it's like this has worked for us.
And maybe just to clarify, I envisioned all of this is scalable. So, development person might just review the application that I just sent to Novo for the Kingston, or they might do a lot more. I mean, I just feel like I'll take it whatever anybody wants to give.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I think
Bring
that's-
us.
Yes, so I'm trying to list some of the things that would be awesome to develop into it someday, but it doesn't have to be a big ask.
Right, and taking some of it off, like recruitment, right? Like this year we really haven't, we have 3 open spots and haven't really tried to get people because we're doing this.
Yeah.
But I think if we did, then it would be really, we can also, as a committee, think about what's missing, what's the expertise that's missing, or what's the area of interest that's missing, and actually ask specific people to join based on like, hey, we're looking for someone who's like amazing engagement and you are that in this community. Or so I think it helps with why, that question of like, what do we do what do I do? How do we all work together? So
And that brings me to one of my open questions, which is, so if we did do this format and no one is interested in development, would that chair just sit empty?
I think it goes back to recruitment.
You think,
Mhm.
so then the committee says, okay, we need to listen. And I'm actually kind of excited about that. I think that we could advertise that and say, like, I'm looking for someone for communications. And I do think that there's something about, this is what we're looking for. People are like, oh, I can see myself in that.
Yeah, that's gonna help recruitment for sure, because people want to know why they're sitting at the table. You know what I mean? And just, I think I heard you say this, Emily, but just to make sure I'm accurate, there's as many little boxes as there are seats on the commission.
I think it's I think it is. I think it's 11. And I think we have
How many do we have to have?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
What's the? Did you say? I thought you said we had that.
Meeting, that's a meet, I think what I mentioned earlier is a meeting.
I just love the idea of there being like an actual seat that's empty that like has a role. I think that's gonna really help. You know what I
Identify.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so also, by the way, let me just mention, I think one of the next steps would be to edit our rules of procedure. So there's a few more steps to this conversation. Even if we voted tonight, it's not like then we're done. I think we would start moving in that direction. Next, we would ask the focus teams, then we would update these rules of procedure. So the rules of procedure say that the commission shall be composed of 11 voting members, each appointed by the mayor. Yeah, I don't think that part matters too much.
And will you remind me what we decided with the focus teams? I know we like drafted like a email to them, but we were gonna send it after this, right?
Yeah, and I've got more to present about it. Does that answer that open question? Right, I believe that it's the same number, number 11. And I did sort of a rough, like, who would go and what, and I got a spot for y'all. Nobody has to be there.
Curious.
Oh, is Hillwell a slot still? Is that gonna be 11?
I mean, right now, Well is, yeah. I mean, because it's still on our website, it's still in our
And
bylaws.
that
so-
person could think about whether they want to bring it back or like have it go away. Or refocus, or just present an idea, like, oh, I'm actually gonna spend this year thinking about the future of Healwell, so it doesn't just like in perpetuity.
Live on the website and people are kind of
Right.
Yeah, okay, got it.
I think it is a role.
I don't know what you think of this. I'm looking ahead. If you have the commissioner and the chair be the same person, eventually that person's term expires. So what you do is you end up losing, you have 2 openings and you have to find somebody that's willing to do both. So I'm a commissioner, my term expires, I leave. I'm also the chair. So now we have no chair and no commissioner. There's no like historic overlap there. There's like, if you have them separate people, you have a chair who maybe will be willing to step up and be a commissioner. But if you void out the leadership for a certain focus group, when the commissioner's term expires, what do? You have to recruit one person willing to do both, but maybe with no knowledge, because you may not be pulling from that group. You may need to bring somebody else in, and it may be harder to do that without having you'll lose institutional knowledge and how things work, because there isn't a commissioner guiding a chair or a chair explaining to the commissioner what we're doing.
Let me see if I'm understanding what you're saying. So, for example, if the Eat Well chair steps away, what's
I
that?
feel like we should call these roles leads because it's
Leads.
confusing if it's chair and chair.
Sure, we can. I don't know.
I'm just.
So the lead,
Okay, so if the Eat Well chair lead moved away.
Yes.
That's their position. Then we would go to Eat Well and ask for another lead.
but if your lead and your commissioner is the same person.
Yeah.
But what if none of those people, like, you're losing your institutional knowledge of how Eat Well works? I mean, you're there and you know, but in terms of exactly what happens there?
So the E-Well chair is not the same as the E-Well lead.
Is it not?
Well, the
It doesn't have to
the
be. So
commissioner and the
Doesn't
lead
have to be.
is what, or the commissioner and the.
the commissioner and the
chair.
lead is the same person,
Right, one lead, well, yes.
but the chair of each group could be a different person, or it could be the same.
Like you're representing the focus team for the commission, but you're
Just
not
for the commission.
leading the focus team
So
necessarily.
you're not
So
losing
you're
this
creating another level of.
connection.
It's like, right,
So right now, Ninette is the chair of Eat Well. She doesn't come to the commission meeting. So if none of us went to Eat Well, none of us would really know what's going on there. So what we're asking is, can someone who sits here participate in Eat Well, just to have that communication channel? These are all kind of
But not in
communication.
a beneficial role, or the role is.
The role is the commission. They sign up for the commission and they're taking on the lead for Eat Well. They're not running Eat Well.
There's a chair who's running Eat Well.
Yes. So they're the communication channel. They're just making sure that the commission actually is not just top down, it's bottom up too. It's just this way of communicating and understanding what's going on for each focus team. Because otherwise we're getting presentations and it's just, okay, what's the,
So now, could it be the same, to Mary's point?
Yes.
Could the chair and the lead be the same person?
could
Right.
Because play well,
They want-
is 4 people.
Yes.
Well,
I'm
and
not gonna get 2 of them.
Yeah. yeah,
It seems like ideally you would want the chair of the focus group to be the same as the lead in the commission. But from, if that person cannot do it, because you're asking them essentially to take, or doesn't want to, you're asking them to take on 2 kind of roles. But generally, yeah, I think lead chair is.
and I think what we talked about in our meetings was that we can't ask that. It's the same thing. Like we don't want to ask too much. And historically, it seems that people who are interested in the commission have been different from the ones who are interested in the focus teams.
right, yeah, usually
So-
those people have less structure. Yeah.
Right, so it can be, I think with this, it's like kind of fluid. It's like, we can go to Ninette and say, would you like to be on the
Yes.
commission? And she can say, no, I want to be the chair of Eat Well. And that's kind of what happened with us, is that Kristen approached both of us, like, who wants to be the commission, who wants to be the commission, who wants to be the chair? And I think we just divided based on our interests.
And then I think for the smaller focus teams, it might just be 1 person, but I'm also there. And I think having 2 is a good goal to work towards. So we can write down this structure as a goal, and then if play well, if there's only 1 person who's interested. But it does sort of seem to scale the work. Like, I think if it's a smaller group, there's less work happening. It's okay.
And when your term's up on the commission, you can stay in the focus team as long as you want. There's no, so that's,
Volunteer.
and that's kind of the beauty of it, is like the work still happens. This is just really like the communication arm of it.
And in fact, Nettie, we've sort of already created that for HVAC. So you and I asked Lori to be the chair for HVAC, and you're a commissioner.
Right,
So in some ways, you're already the lead.
well, that's where I came from.
Yeah,
But Lori hasn't formally accepted, she.
we'll work on it.
We don't want to push you too hard.
Yeah. Okay, these are great questions. My other question, so that was sort of my, what happens if the chair isn't filled? I think we sort of talked through that. I feel like I have an answer to that. Let me clarify that, so on that, let me go back to it. On that, I'm not trying not to call them chairs anymore. The view of leads,
Focus group commission, committee.
health and wellness staff wouldn't have a voting position still. So similar to how it is now, and I'm fine with that. I'm just sort of, I just wanted to clarify that. Make sense to everybody?
I'm open either way. It doesn't.
I've never, in some ways, maybe it's kind of nice that the staff doesn't vote. Because we're not lobbying them, we're not, we're the backbone, we're not. In some ways, it's like we don't have a horse in the race.
Historic preservation, they would let.
Shouldn't everyone want?
Whenever we vote on anything, they don't vote.
Right, that's always been, right?
That's how it's been.
Yeah.
So just clarifying that was continuing.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So this is sort of a philosophical question that I have just to try to understand it. So for my own clarity, it's not clear to me what work is live well work, what work is Department of Health and Wellness work, what work is creating healthy schools and communities work. You know, we have multiple identities, and so we don't have to answer this question tonight, and maybe it's taking us off a little bit off of the structuring, but it's one of my open questions, which is, so for example, I'm managing a clean mobility plan. It's going to increase transportation options in the state of Kingston. Is that the Live Kingston work? Live Kingston didn't ask me to do it, but it sort of fits under what I think the goals of Travel Well are.
I would certainly report on it to Travel Well.
Yeah.
Advise them of
Yeah.
it, and they could give you some input.
Yeah.
You can take that away.
I mean, the grant we have is for Live Well, which pays for my time. So so to the grantor, it's Live Well work, I think.
Interesting.
But it, you know,
But it's not under the umbrella of travel. But it could be.
yeah, this is the thing I guess I'm sort of asking help thinking through, because sometimes the mayor asks me to do work. Sometimes Live Well, we decide to do, take on work for Live Well. So it's a little bit of a different thing.
When you apply for a grant saying that it falls under Live Well, is the commission like consulted? Because I feel like that would be important, right? Like it's different if the mayor says, I need you to do this, it's a priority. But if like we're saying that it's Live Well when we get the funding, I feel like then there should definitely be a role for the commission, even if it's just like awareness.
Makes a lot of sense. So, you know, so for example, we just applied for additional Live Well Kingston funding, and we just today got the official approval for it.
Congrats.
But like, keep it much. But like, I didn't tell you, right?
Yeah. That is.
There's a flaw there.
Especially if there's like a development person knowing like
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is part of the
budget is.
Yeah.
Do you have that slide of the umbrella that we, remember we tried to like map this out a little bit?
This one or the one that
This one, yeah. But it's like at the top is the Department of Health and Wellness, then like the commission is that feedback channel for the Department of Health and Wellness, and able to do policy and be more connected to the communities that it serves theoretically, and then each working group both is under the commission and reports to the commission, you know. I don't know if that makes sense, but
I think that I'm probably gonna have to have more versions of this conversation than just tonight, because I think what some of it seems clear to me, like if we've applied for a grant, then all of my work is Live Well, if that's the grant we applied for. But also, I still struggle a little bit with what Travel Well's goals are, and I think that's maybe a slightly different conversation. So
because I think that was the problem with like when you used to do the reporting, it was like, here's what Travel did. It's like, no, this is what you did.
right, totally.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas like eWell has decided it wants to be more of like an information group. So it's not doing a lot of like,
Right.
but then Kristen
Reports on, but it's not eat well. To me, like that, if it helps validate your experience as a commissioner, I have found that dissonance like not uncomfortable, but like confusing is a good word maybe. So it sounds like we're moving in the right direction to like clarify.
Yeah.
Installations.
And maybe when we do that welcome packet, we have that more fleshed out, like, hey, this is your role.
Yeah.
This is Health and Wellness's role. This is the role of
Yes.
the team. So we can just like,
Yes.
as a group, figure out what those 5 sentences are.
And part of this, I think, is a communications issue.
Yes.
Yeah. And so getting that clarification and then creating some materials that explain it for everybody, myself included.
Are there activities that are not, that the Department of Health and Wellness is doing that's not captured in the Live Well Kingston initiative?
So a good example that I had in the last couple of years was the mobile mental health grant. So the city of Kingston got a grant to start add on to the county's mobile mental health program specifically for the city of Kingston. There was no one else in the city of Kingston that was able to manage that grant, so the mayor gave it to me. We don't talk about mental health in our Live Well Kingston work. So that's
Why?
what's that?
Why not?
Slash any more, because I feel like we did more when Healwell was active.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much in the commission meetings, but
No, but I mean, when Hero was still a thing, I went to Hero meetings, they were kind of telling me that like, oh, we don't do that.
My explanation for that is that the county is the expert and very capable at supporting our community with mental health issues. And so it sort of feels like I'm happy to share the information and good work that they're doing, but I don't know that we're gonna come up with solutions. I feel like Integrated Ulster and there's other groups that are already doing great work around that. So to me, it's sort of like housing. Housing is absolutely a part of health. But we've got a director of housing, we've got other groups that are working on that. In some ways, it sort of feels like that's one thing I can say, that's not my world. And so it's a little bit easier for me to say this,
And maybe part of our mapping is, whether it's in the packet or on the website, the other resources. We talked about this before too. It's like, here are the other resources, here are the other players. Here's, you know, in a way that we don't have to keep updating it.
bingo.
That's what communications too, because I remember like I randomly went to the Safe Streets meeting, remember? And I was like, you guys, you know, there's a mobile mental health team and they were, and which is also a city initiative, right? And I was like, and just like, you know, regular community members were like, no idea. So it's like, that could be, even though I appreciate you saying like the county has it, like maybe Live Well has a role in like getting the word out to the Kingston community.
Yeah,
About
so
what
like,
it says.
the county's doing a great job, it's like, y'all, we're gonna solve it.
Yeah, I mean, even under these buckets, it could be like, other partners or other organizations working on food equity in Kingston.
Yeah.
Other folks working on growing, other folks working on travel.
We've got all those stakeholders.
Yeah, something that just like is a placeholder for that, that doesn't need to be updated. But then, and then it kind of, it gives us the reason why we don't do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going into some communications stuff, which is fabulous. It's really helping me and I really appreciate it. But I'm gonna move us on a little bit because I want us to stay a little bit focused, and that's my fault because I brought up this discussion point. So other questions about this proposed new structure, other concerns? And let me talk about what I was thinking, if you feel like you're ready to vote, so I'm not trying to rush it. If you were, I was gonna try to do it in, I forget the name of it, but not like a yay or nay, but like give everyone, I was gonna actually have us all go around and say their response, which is like, yes, 100% for this structure. Yes, but I still have questions. Then the next one I think I was gonna have I have concerns, and then the next one was gonna be I'm blocking it. Like I do not think we should move in this direction. And anything after yes, so like yes with questions to me means we have to talk about it more. So that's sort of what I was thinking, but I wanted to sort of get a temperature check. Because then our next steps, I think, would be to talk to the focus teams. And I want to make sure that we're sort of agreeing to move in that direction before I bring it up with other people. Do you want to go through that exercise of a temperature check?
I have to leave soon, so I don't want to go first.
Great, yes, I do.
Okay.
Go first.
There's,
Go for
I
it.
mean, having an individual role for all of, you know, everyone seems like a good idea. And, when you were asking about, you know, what's, Live Well stuff, what's the health and wellness department stuff, and what's just stuff, and like all that, like, it seems like, you could probably consolidate some of those chairs into, you know, one and just have, like when I talk about Live Well, I often talk about play well and travel well is, you know, a lot bigger contributions to like the parks and the active transportation than Live Well actually is, even though those are both something like I'm always at the parks and I'm always walking to get to them. Like it's the sort of thing that it seems like it could be probably easily handle if like you and I have those conversations about that, and then if it has to happen, well, and then I bring it up in Live Well, and that's how that is, you know, connected, so we know about some of those things. But other than that, I think that's seems like a good idea.
Cool.
Oh, other than, every once in a while, we seem to get a commissioner that's, like, very building. It would be difficult to get them
Talked about.
roles, but
Not to interject, Anthony, but probably in the bylaws, there's something about. Yeah, but like, there's probably a measure for that, right?
There already is.
Right, that's what I'm.
You missed so many meetings.
technically, like, it's in the thing that we follow, like Robert's Rules of Order, and like absolutely everything is very taken care of if it's like followed to the letter, but that's kind of like a lot of things back.
I think that might be like chair, vice chair, be like, hey, let's
Address it.
catch up and figure out a plan or like have a conversation with this person and see if they actually want to be involved. Or Katrina take it.
For all of your information, the attendance in the bylaws right now is absence from 3 consecutive regular meetings without excuse shall automatically vacate their office. at any time.
And that's for the commission,
That's for the commission.
for a commissioner, not any of the.
Right, well, this wasn't written for leads.
But the leads are commissioner, same thing.
Okay.
Any member may be excused, the chair,
Silly me, yeah. Okay.
any member may be excused from attendance for good cause or reason, for any reason, should we enter into the meeting minutes of any such meeting. So basically, if you let me know I can't make it, it doesn't count towards that. We've never asked someone to leave, by the way. So we've absolutely had people who have sort of ghosted us. I tried to reach out. Like, there is a member, that hasn't come in a while. It's probably time for me to reach out and check in with that person. But I think Anthony brings up a good point about that. But that
It could also like trying to take things off your plate. That could also be
yeah,
chair, vice chair role, just be like, hey,
Yeah.
because we were voted in for whatever, not that it's all official, but just like so that it's like give you like the rules of the commission, especially if we have that welcome packet too. When we meet with new members, they understand what the commitment is. If you don't really like, I never had an introduction when I came in. I didn't know that if I missed 3, I would be kicked out. Like, cool. Like, so I think a lot of this is like a starting over point too, that if we all vote yes, then like, okay, starting next year,
So
we're gonna have this plan and we're gonna recruit people based on this, and there's just gonna be clear understanding of what it is.
okay, Anthony, there was a yes or a yes with questions. Like, do you feel like we need to discuss it more?
Well, yeah, I mean, it didn't seem like, well, yeah, I guess. I don't know, I'm on board, wherever you decide, I mean, it seems like it needs to be like, kind of like worked around a little bit, but I mean,
Okay, but you're okay with the direction?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna go around the room. Kyle, I know you're typing, but can I have you go next?
Yeah, sure. No, I'm definitely, yes. Don't have any questions.
Whoa. Okay. Go down with.
Block.
That's like you're part of this.
Block moving forward, that's like, that's a strong.
It's a strong move.
Yeah, it's not just like I have any questions, no, I'm just.
Don't be shy.
No, I'm, yeah, no, this is great. Really like how it's turned out. Thank you. Anyway.
Arlene, you're not a member, but would you like to?
No, I don't want to contribute. I don't feel it's appropriate, but I'm comfortable with whatever you say.
Okay.
But you get to at least see where we're going, and if you want to be part of this, you get that sense of.
Just wanna be-
We have some vacancies.
Yeah,
We have 3 vehicles.
yeah,
I
no,
guess,
I want to be on this committee. I mean,
Arlene did it fine. I haven't received that.
yeah, I have some introductory notes if you want to give me a minute to introduce myself.
Awesome. Let's finish this, then I'll come back to that.
Right, but I'm not comfortable with making a comment until I'm in the question.
Yeah,
Sure, fine.
it's good.
I love the idea. I'm all in.
oh yes.
I'm so happy to see all of this, and I really wish we could implement it sooner than the first year. Like, it might be like fall kickoff or something, but I think this will mean a lot to a lot of the focus groups. here's parameters.
Cool.
Here's your support, here's focused.
Yeah.
And I think this will be.
And that's perfect, because that was our next step, was reaching out to the
Yeah.
focus teams
Yeah.
and letting them know what
The one fuzzy.
And I love your idea, like I want it now. There's other work, you know, we can start to work on some of the welcome packet and communications around it. Getting us ready for a January 1 official role.
But I think you're right. I think a lot of things will happen in the fall for sure. Having all the people ready to go for January
Yeah,
1
yeah.
too.
Kristen, you're still on. You're not a voting member, would you like to chime in if you're there? Do you have any thoughts or questions?
Hi, I'm here, but I don't need to chime in. It's fine. I think this covers, I've been like listening to the conversation, and it sounds amazing. So
Seen you in 3 different rooms.
I know.
Running from that kid.
oh
Yeah,
yeah, the background has changed a lot.
It's different angles.
At least you're not in the bathroom yet. With a light.
Been there for sure. Okay, cool. So that feels like we're moving in that direction. It's 5:30. We've got 15 minutes. I'd like to just share with you what I drafted up would be the next step. So I would take sort of what we just try to create a brief presentation on what the change is. And then for each focus team, I'd like to ask them, it's really 3 questions, even though it looks longer, and I'll explain why. But the 3 questions are, is there someone willing to, I'm going to change it to be the lead for the focus team at Live Well Kingston meetings, be a commissioner? The second question, I think it's 4 questions. The second question is, what is the goal of your focus team? What is the measure of your success? And then all at the bottom, I have, what resources or support do you need? So it's 4 main questions, and I was not going to give them a blank. I was going to offer what I think it might be.
Okay, because when we talked about it, we were thinking it was going to be like a doodle poll for everyone to do at the beginning of a focus team meeting. So you would show up at the focus team, it'd be like 5 minutes for everyone to be like.
I mean,
But
honestly, I sort of feel like each focus team might facilitate in a slightly different way.
okay,
Plain well, we're meeting on Friday. I might ask them this on Friday and then be like, yeah, that's cool. And I think Eat Well will probably be a little more structured in the way that they have this discussion. They already have on their calendar that in August, they're gonna be holding their first. So, I actually think each one could be facilitated slightly.
okay. I was just thinking about, again, what we talked about, like metrics and feedback and having it slightly similar so that like we can compare them to each other. Because if everyone played was just like, cool, that doesn't actually get us what is your goal? What help do you want? Because if what do you want from the commission? If everyone's like, nothing. Or they can take it back and like, maybe just share the questions and then in a month from now, and then they answer them. I don't know. I guess that's when we have that discussion, I wanted actual feedback.
I hear you. So maybe maybe I'll come up with either the form or the way that we'll facilitate that and give some feedback on it. There we go. That'd be awesome. So these were my drafts of what I thought each focus team's goal and measure of success is. This is what it is in my brain, but do you want me to go through that now? Or first, any feedback on those 4 questions?
Let's do the 4 questions again.
Okay, so the first question is there someone willing to be the lead for the focus team at the Live Well Kingston Commission, so being a commissioner? And then what is the goal of your focus team? What is the measure of your success of that goal? And then what resource or support do you need basically to fulfill that goal?
I might suggest giving that first question a little more definition and maybe you intend to, in terms of the commitment, like not just come, because they're so used to coming to report out, but like really like to actually sit on the commission is your ask, I think, right, with the first question.
And I think we were gonna start this whole thing with like a little paragraph about what the commission, like with these changes, like here's
But
There's
that's,
gonna be someone from the commission kind of presenting about the commission
Right,
and then going into this,
I
but we need your feedback and we need like.
yeah, right. So what I'm hearing is this needs to be fleshed out a little bit. Right, that's not a great phrase, but I'll come up with it. I had this little blurb, but I think, right, there's definitely gonna be some people, but like, what's livable in Kingston?
Right.
So, yeah, the explanation, what is livable in Kingston?
Mm.
Great, and clarifying what it means to be. So that's great.
I don't mean to sound snarky, but there's people in the focus teams that don't know what live well is.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
they don't want to. They just want to do their
100%.
thing, yeah.
I've never heard of it, like,
Yeah.
because the commission doesn't go,
But even the initiative, like Live Well Kingston, because
Like a context for why they exist.
I mean, as someone who's been, was part of Eat Well for 8 years, like, I just thought it was Eat Well.
Got
I
it.
didn't know there was a Play Well. I didn't know there was. I didn't know there was.
To defend myself.
Which you don't need to do, I'm sure.
I definitely would like give updates occasionally, be like, so you all know, Playball's
Yeah.
working on this, blah, 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 but it wasn't formalized.
I think I remember that and then, but I still, because I only went to Eat Well, I just didn't.
Yeah.
And until you guys were like, there's a this, so I was like, okay, like it just
Yeah.
didn't seem.
But it is 100% needs to be improved.
But, and maybe that's chair, vice chair, maybe like we go to one of them and just say.
Because if you're like super interested in that particular area,
Yes.
no matter how many times you just might not like you said, they don't care, but they don't want to know.
Yeah, like that kind of thing. It's just like, I don't know.
It's fine.
It's nothing good. Yeah.
I think that's something thing.
And also, Kristen has really developed some wonderful presentations for Eat Well. So specifically, we talked about that 311 waiver, which is a very specific potential program instance. So there were some people, I think, who were just like, oh, the 311 waiver, I'm interested in that. You know, there are people who are sort of on our listservs that are, we never hear from, and then they might show up once every 2 years. And so I think that, you know, they perk up, they hear a certain thing, or someone forwards it to them, they come
Sure.
from one meeting.
Sure.
And there's also subcommittees in the subcommittee.
Oh,
like-
are there?
Well, because like on Eat Well, we were part of the, waste mitigation was like a subcommittee, so then and now there's a policy. For Eat Well, like, so you kind of just like keep
Very
going away.
sophisticated, yeah.
Well, it's people who want to either have,
I felt it.
have information or want.
Mhm.
And that's what I think this is all connecting. It's like, so we're, there's different levels of which people are learning about things and also some actionable items.
Yes. And to me, I think this comes back to, again, a communications issue. It's about having better materials explain, not just having the logo. I think we've gotten to the point where all of our agendas always have Live Well Kingston on there. But, and I tried, it was a big deal when we started to add the mission to every agenda. That was like a step.
Even the logo, I think, really is effective.
Yeah.
It made me realize like it's sort of those different areas.
Here's another example. So we had Grow Well Monday night, and there was a woman there, and she was asking her, she goes, "Oh, Live Well, I don't know about that." And I started, it's like, "Oh, it's the different focus teams." Oh, and we have a Heal Well. We told her, she goes, "Oh, I did gum healings for Teresa. Was that Heal Well?" It's like, "Yeah, that was Heal Well." So she had actively supported one of the
Yeah.
projects, but didn't know that
Then we're all connected. Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, okay.
Maybe we have a graphic designer that comes in the commission who like somehow draws that little flow chart of like health and wellness, mission, all these groups and like, but just for visual learners, it's like nice to see the connection.
I do love a Canva moment, so.
So this
Well,
Chris-
volunteer, if I just zone out on Canva, I will sign up for that.
Great. Tired.
So it sounds like next steps to this are developing a little bit more. Send it to Katrina, or if anyone else is interested, for some more feedback on it, and then we'll bring it to the focus teams.
I think we're gonna let all the chairs know that there's something not me.
Yes, that's great.
So I know Kristen has this already in the agenda, right, for August. Maybe Kristen, August.
Yeah, and so at my playbook meeting Friday, we won't be answering these questions, but I'll be prepping them that it's.
Right, Kristen, are we on the agenda for? You said August or September or something?
Yes, you could be on the agenda. Oh, there I am. You could be on the agenda for August and Eat Well. Eat Well's August meeting. I have ideas for it, but it's not fully formed. I sent over a rough timeline that Nina and I had laid out for 2026 planning for Eat Well, and I could go pull it up, but we had planned by October that a draft action plan would be presented to the Eat Well group at large, which meant that we would, in August, we would be doing a survey of Eat Well that would be conducted both in meeting and then we would send it like through Google Form and stuff. So yes, August would be the meeting to garner feedback from Eat Well and input.
Great, that's what we were thinking. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? The commissioners that are not here tonight, by the way, I was going to send some of this information and ask for their feedback via email. So that's Yvonne, Anita, Sarah. And try to ask them to give us a yay or nay or feedback on the restructuring.
And maybe also some Jesus still want to be on the.
Yvonne was gonna get a cup of coffee with me, but we didn't. So I'll try.
This is good timing because you can say we've got a restructuring plan, we want to know if you want to be part of it.
Yeah.
We've sort of created more of a structure. Does that interest you or not? Okay, bye, thank you. You know, if they don't want to do it, they may say, oh, yeah, give me an assignment, I'll do it.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Do you guys wanna do? The last thing, I have a few more little tiny things on the agenda. Why don't I go into that? Yep. Okay. I think it was just some announcements and communications. That's to it.
And then introduction.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. Before I do announcements, communications, Arlene, thank you so much. Would you please introduce yourself?
Because I wrote some notes because I didn't want to stumble and
Yeah.
I didn't want to stutter and stumble.
I think my apologies, like I already know you, and so I feel very comfortable. I forget that some folks here may not know you.
My name is Arlene Puentes. I'm lucky enough to be a City of Kingston homeowner for over 30 years. I am a senior citizen. I'm going to be 68 next month. I've asked my family to buy me a kite because I broke mine at the kite festival this week. I am semi-retired. I was a business owner for 20 years, closed my business at the end of 24. My part-time money-making gig often takes me out of town. I was in Watertown last month. My expertise is in building inspections. I have had a New York State code certification since 2006 and have 4 International Code Council certifications. I also have a modest working knowledge of Microsoft Office, if that is useful. I am a native Spanish speaker, if that is useful. I worked for the City of Kingston for 3 years in the Office of Community Development as their housing rehabilitation specialist. In particular, I worked on the lead service line replacement program under the funded by a grant from New York State. And I've also worked on the housing rehabilitation program funded by HUD's Community Development Block Grant Program. I have served on the board of the Kingston Library and am currently serving on the City of Kingston's Rent Guidelines Board. I want to bring to your attention the fact that I am fat. I spoke to Emily about it, wondering if that fact would be thought to be incongruous to living well. She assured me it would not, but I'd like it to be known that fat people can be healthy. I eat vegetables every day. I have regular doctor well visits, and I do my doctor's recommended checkups. I ride my bicycle on our wonderful Kingston trails at least 5 times a week. I can jump rope for about 3 minutes and do 10 squats each day. I am not here because I have idle time to spare, but rather I'm here for 2 reasons. 1, I'd like to do good. 2, I am trying to ease a heart aching from the present national political atmosphere in the United States. If this commission will have me, I pledge approximately 5 hours a month exclusive of these monthly meetings. And that's what I had to say.
Oh, Colleen.
And you did my inspection for 20 Hamilton.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think you're right. Yeah. It's so fun to just hang out for a couple hours.
Oh gosh, I forgot.
You always remember these better.
Yes.
Don't find anything bad.
Oh, there's all sorts of stuff.
Oh.
We do not have a quorum.
No,
We don't have a quorum, we can't vote on it tonight. Maybe we'll try to do it over.
We've done that.
Yeah, so, so Arlene, if we had had a quorum, I would have asked you for coming tonight and asked you to leave, and then we would have voted, and then we would have gone through the process of asking the mayor to appoint you. But I'll try to move that process along in the next month, and we'll try to do a vote in between.
Just plan to be next week.
yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Well, she has said no to people.
Yeah.
We said no to people.
The mayor has never not accepted.
The mayor's not, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For my time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Arlene, for that. That was lovely. Few announcements, communications, Live Well Kingston, i.e. me, I'm gonna be tabling at the Midtown Make a Difference Day on July 18th. I'll be at the Kingston Farmers Market July 19th. If anyone wants to help me table,
I'm gonna be there with my stuff, so. Give a good time.
Target Farmers Market, yeah.
Saw you at Earth Fair.
I love it.
We have a good time.
Yeah. I love doing it, and then I was exhausted. It was,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm not, I mean, both of those locations be hot, but we'll be okay.
July?
You have a tent, right? We didn't put the tent up.
The little fans.
I just, Kristen added the Eat Well Policy Subcommittee, there's the subcommittee we were talking about. We'll be developing a proposed nutrition and food access policy platform to present to the commission for 2026. So heads up on some policy review. Next meeting will be June 18th, but then we won't meet in July and August, but we might meet and talk about communications or another topic. Anything else? I'm done talking. Wow. Anybody else?
Quick announcement, I don't have anything to share from like the county, but on a personal level, I was also at the Earth Fair. I represent a very new group called the Kingston City School District Green Team. And we're trying to work with our local, or each it's not just parents, really anybody who is interested is welcome to come. We represent a few different schools. I'm a GW parent, and we're trying to further green initiatives in the school buildings. We're a small but mighty group. We're having some fun. We're going to be working with, I've become buds with Cindy, fast friends with Cindy. We're going to be working on the garden at GW this summer. I'm really excited about that. And we're doing a clothing swap on June 7th at the Good Work Institute. It's actually our second that we've done. The first one was really well attended. So just some fun stuff happening. I'm not on Facebook, but the group is on Facebook. And if anyone's interested, feel free to spread the word or join.
Do we just bring clothes to this one? Okay.
Yes, it's a great place to unload too. Yeah. I got a ton of stuff last time. We have a lot of nice stuff.
I just went to
last
one
time.
and it only went to 3 tea. It's like,
Oh, yeah, we all ages, all seasons, yeah. It's 11 to 2, I think. It's on Facebook. There's an event on Facebook. If you're
So how does that work? How does the how does the clothing swap?
You come with kids' clothes and you take what you want, and we'll organize it by size to the best of our ability.
we just had one, so we're gonna bring all our remaining stuff to yours.
Cool, okay.
So,
And last time, I think we gave our leftovers to people's place, so I'll try to do the plans. All right.
Did they take clothes?
they do, but not much, and nothing with stains on it.
Okay. Oh.
My swaps are better. Okay. Whereas you was flavors. Definitely.
Great place to shop though. They won't take,
Yeah.
everything you go there.
People don't want, I mean, it's hard because you can't really do much. I don't know how to recycle clothes well, but you should really donate stamps.
I'm gonna bring us to Kristen, because I'm guessing if she's got her hand up, that means it's a moment that Finn's not
Yeah.
other.
I love that.
Or she's just gonna say.
Hi, yes, I've moved rooms again. I was just going to bring up, so shouting now. I think the policy platform will be really exciting. I hope it's something to bring to the commission for consideration. So when we are talking through all of these policy items, we've got kind of like our priorities and values that are outlined very clearly. So it helps us the policy subcommittee to be a little bit more nimble and any sort of policy work. But then also I'm going to plug the next Eat Well meeting, which is June 10th, I believe, is the second Tuesday of the month. That is going to start with a presentation from someone from CCE on agriculture in Ulster County. But in the second half of it, I've decided to just go ahead and like talk a lot more about the food systems plan, because we are in movement with that with a graphic designer to get towards a public comment period by later this summer. And so if you're interested, I think I was listening kind of to the conversation while I had Finn, shouting about a banana at me. But some of this work that's going to be coming up, hopefully for the city, will be in this food systems plan. And so that's like a whole nother animal and a lot of touching work that maybe we haven't historically done in the past that doesn't fit neatly into really the Eat Well bucket, which is just kind of the focus theme that I convene, although I participate in Grow Well. So if you want to learn more about the food systems plan, come on June 10th it's a virtual meeting. Make sure that you're part of the invitation. We'll be talking about the strategies. And I think Katrina mentioning the green work being done in the school district, this is a perfect way that it will just kind of expand the work that we're doing, because food systems will be touching on the environment and sustainability and climate change, because that's such a big part of the food systems as well. So I think it's Tuesday, June 10th, but I'm going to send the calendar invitation to everyone. So come talk about the food systems plan.
You said you had some?
Yeah, I'll just share. I've shared with Kristen and Kyle and Emily, but I'm in an active job search, and I've had to expand outside of Kingston. It's not there's not a lot of opportunities right now, so I may be stepping away from the commission this summer. Unfortunately, so I just wanted to put that out there. So if I'm not at the next meeting,
Might happen fast.
the Rutgers job is fast. Yeah, they're saying like July 1. So
Well, I will personally miss you, but I'm excited for new horizons for you, because you have so much talent and energy and.
we'll see. We're not there yet, but there's enough things in the fire that
Something might be.
Would that include a move? Okay.
not by choice. I
Yeah.
would love to stay, but support the fam. So also if you hear of anything,
Which.
food systems.
Oh, okay.
So I worked at BARD as the supervisor of food and ag, and then I was at BARD for 5 years. Yeah, so those are the big players around here.
Yeah.
So,
Well, good luck.
Thanks.
yeah, I have a 4-hour final interview.
Oh, wow. Or.
That's why I'm like, how many minutes are left?
My girlfriend recently had to spend the whole day, and she was one of 3 candidates. I'm like, they spent the whole day with 3 people? I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I'm like.
rolling. Full agenda? I mean,
Yes, it's like tours and meetings.
Right.
I'm just like, okay.
wow.
It's so depressing when there's like jobs right now, I feel like your job is 1,000 applicants, and then you have to go through this process of so many interviews.
I've never, I was laughing
Be a
at
job market.
when I moved here for a job at BARD from grad school in Vermont, and I applied to 3 jobs and I got them all.
Oh.
And I tried to I did them all. And then when I went to Farm Hub, it was just like, they're like, you should apply to this. I'm like, okay. And so it's my first time in my life being like, oh, I'm 55 applications in, and yeah, it's been a wild ride. I've had 8 interviews. Been ghosted by at least 30. Take what I can get at this point. New Jersey, never thought that would be good.
They need your help.
New Jersey, we need your help.
Any other announcements or communications anyone want to share? Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to a close for tonight. Thank you all.